York is known for many things, from its hot dogs to Lady Liberty to the bagels and pizza and shopping in Central Park. The list goes on and on. But one thing that definitely stands out in New York is the buildings and, of course, the history. So in this video, I want to share some of the incredible history behind 10 iconic buildings in New York that you absolutely need to visit during your time there. Let's get right into it. The Flatiron Building. This is a true gem of New York City. Built back in 1902, this was one of the very first skyscrapers in the city. Standing tall at 285 feet, or 22 stories high, it was quite a sight to behold. What makes this building really special is its unique shape. If you look at it from above, it looks like a triangle, sort of like an old-fashioned flat iron used for ironing clothes. That's why people call it the Flatiron Building. You can find it right where Fifth Avenue and Broadway meet, with East 22nd Street running alongside it. This spot has become famous, and the whole area around it is known as the Flatiron District, named after this iconic building. It's become a symbol of New York City, a real must-see for anyone visiting the Big Apple. 9. The Dakota. This place is super special because it's been around since way back in 1884. Back then, it was built to look like those fancy buildings in France from the late 1800s. It was made for rich people to live in and was one of the first apartment buildings of its kind. Lots of famous people have lived here over the years. You might have heard of some of them, like Bono from the band U2, or Boris Karloff, who played Frankenstein in old movies. Judy Garland, the famous singer and actress, lived here too. And there are others like Connie Chung, Maury Povich, John Madden, and Joe Namath. But probably the most famous person who ever lived here was John Lennon from the Beatles. Sadly, he was shot and killed right outside the building in 1980, which made the Dakota even more well-known. 8. St. Patricks Cathedral. This is right across from Rockefeller Center in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. You can't miss it. It's surrounded by famous streets like Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue. This Catholic cathedral is a big deal. It's the largest Gothic revival church in North America. They started building it way back in 1858, but had to stop during the Civil War. They finally finished it in 1878 to replace the old St. Patrick's Cathedral when more people started coming to the Archdiocese. The cathedral is made of marble and has beautiful stained glass windows. The towers facing Fifth Avenue are really tall, about 329 feet. And if you listen closely, you might hear the 19 bells in the northern corner. Inside, there are even 2 pipe organs. 7. Radio City Music Hall. This is a famous spot in Midtown Manhattan, right at Rockefeller Center. This place has been around since 1932 and can hold almost 6,000 people. Back in the day, it was all about movies here. They premiered big ones like King Kong, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Mary Poppins. They even tried some stage shows, but those didn't work out so well at first. But then they switched to music concerts, and that's when things really took off. Big names like Lady Gaga, Adele, and Pink Floyd have rocked this stage. They've also hosted cool events like the NFL Draft and game shows on TV. 6. 1 Times Square. This iconic skyscraper has quite the history. Built back in 1904, it used to be home to the New York Times, which is where it got its name. Yep, this building actually inspired the name of the famous Times Square district in New York City. You'll find 1 Times Square at 1475 Broadway, right in the heart of all the action. It's like the advertising capital of the world, with some of the most valuable billboard space you can imagine. These billboards rake in huge amounts of money because of their prime location. Back in 1995, the Lehman Brothers bought the building and covered it in even more billboards. This turned 1 Times Square into a symbol of display advertising, even though most of the building itself is empty. But 1 Times Square isn't just famous for its ads. Every year, it's the center of attention for New Year's Eve. That's when they drop the iconic ball, and the whole world watches. It's a tradition that brings people together from all over to celebrate in the heart of New York City. 5. One World Trade Center. This is the tallest building in the United States and the 6th tallest in the world. Standing at a whopping 1,176 feet tall, it's a deliberate nod to the year the United States Constitution was signed. This remarkable building shares its name with the former North Tower and sits on the same spot where the original 6th World Trade Center once stood. Both were tragically destroyed destroyed in the 9/11 terror attacks in 2001. The construction of One World Trade Center was a way to honor the memory of those lost and to rebuild after such a devastating event. Currently, the building boasts an impressive 94 stories, with the top floor numbered as the 104th. It's not just a skyscraper, it's a symbol of resilience and strength in the face of tragedy. 4. New York City Hall. New York City Hall is a pretty important spot in America's history. Built back in 1812, it's actually the oldest city hall in the country that still does what it was built for, housing the mayor's office and the New York City Council. The design for this historic building came from a competition way back in 1802. Joseph Francois Mangin and John McComb Jr. won the contest with their design, which earned them a $350 prize. Mangin, by the way, also worked on the St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. Construction hit a few snags along the way, including labor disputes and even a yellow fever outbreak. But finally, in 1811, they dedicated the building, and it officially opened its doors in 1812. These days, you'll often see the steps of City Hall used for press conferences and political demonstrations. It's even got some significance in the digital world. Google Maps uses City Hall as the center point for all its maps, marking it as the 0-mile point. So every time you use Google Maps to get somewhere, you're measuring the distance from City Hall. 3. The United Nations headquarters. Right near the Westgate, New York Grand Central, you'll find something pretty special: the United Nations headquarters. It's a bit of a unique setup here in New York. See, the land where the UN headquarters sits is in New York City, but it's not exactly under the U.S. government's control. Originally, the UN wanted to make its own separate city, but instead they settled on 760 United Nations Plaza in New York. Here's where it gets interesting. Even though it's in New York, the UN headquarters is considered extraterritorial. That means it's not exactly part of the United States, but it still follows U.S. laws. It's like its own little international zone right in the heart of Manhattan. 2. The New York Stock Exchange. This building is quite something to see, especially because of its classical Greek revival style. As you look at it, you can't miss the 6 gigantic Corinthian columns, each standing an impressive 52.5 feet tall. When you look up, you'll see the pediment, which is the triangle-shaped area above the columns. It's adorned with intricate figures that tell a story about American capitalism. One of the main figures is Integrity, a powerful-looking woman dressed in traditional robes. She stands with her arms out and fists clenched, symbolizing honesty and sincerity. But Integrity isn't alone. There are 11 figures in total on the 110-foot pediment. Each one represents something important to America, like science, industry, agriculture, mining, and realizing intelligence. It's a grand display that shows what America is all about, right here at the New York Stock Exchange, the Empire State Building. This is a towering symbol of New York City. This building is really something special. It was the first in the world to have over 100 floors, reaching a staggering height of 1,250 feet from the ground to the roof. With its tower included, it soars to an impressive 1,454 feet tall. Construction of this giant began in March 1930, and amazingly, it was finished in just a year and a half. They were putting up almost 5 stories every single week, which is crazy fast. In 1970, it lost its title as the world's tallest building when the World Trade Center was built, but it still holds a special place in people's hearts. You might remember it from the movie King Kong in 1933 when the giant gorilla climbed to the top. Talk about iconic. Nowadays, visitors can go up to the 86th floor open-air observatory for incredible views of the city. You can see famous landmarks like the Brooklyn Bridge, Central Park, and even the Statue of Liberty. If you're feeling adventurous, you can go all the way up to the 102nd floor for a 360-degree view that stretches up to 80 miles on a clear day. It's like seeing the whole city from the top of the world. I hope you found this video interesting and got some ideas on where to visit in New York. If so, I'd really appreciate if you like and subscribe for more videos like this.